If you have ever felt the pull to do more with your life, you have got to check out these 6 books. Welcome to Your Bookshelf, Your Future. Honest non-fiction book reviews to help you read your way to a better future. I'm Mildred Talabi, and today we are talking about the 6 books you absolutely must read if you want to tap into your purpose. I have to tell you, I read all of these 6 books in my 20s, and they really helped me to set the compass for the kind of life that I wanted to live and the impact that I wanted to make. Now, as I get older, I am returning back to the principles of these books, the need to do more with my life than just pay bills and better things for my family. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those things. Of course, you must pay your bills, and of course, you must do what you can to make sure you and your family have a better life. But there is more to life than that, and these books will help you see that. So, let's get into them. The very first book I want to share with you is this one. You can see it's a little tattered on the corner because it's been well loved. This is called The Element by Ken Robinson. The core idea of this book is, just as the top subtitle says, how finding your passion changes everything. In this book, Ken argues that we're all born with great natural abilities, but we lose touch with them the more time we spend in the world, which is true. And it's the reason why so many people are stuck in dead end jobs that they don't enjoy. And you might be one of those people because you're not in your element. Your element is that place of natural design where you will both thrive and make a greater contribution to the world. So society loses out when we're not in our elements. It's not good for us. It's definitely not good for society at large. So inside this book, you're going to find stories of famous people like Paul McCartney of the Beatles, actress Meg Ryan, writer Ariana Huffington of the Huffington Post, and so many other people who came to recognize and utilize their unique talents to make a successful living doing what they love. And as a result, the rest of us benefited. The Element is all about tapping into your passion. The book has been written to give you that urgency to find your passion, to find the place where your natural abilities align with your personal passion so you can make the biggest contribution to the world. Now, what I loved most about The Element is that I read this in my 20s at a time when I had completely gone against the grain of what was expected of me. Now, growing up as a young person in a Nigerian family, if you know anything about Nigerian families, you will know that there are only a few notable, worthy occupations that your parents will ever want you to do. So whether that's being a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, an engineer, I think there's about 4 or 5, and that's it. So my parents thought being a lawyer was the best fit for me. And as a young person, I kind of was interested in law. I went along with that plan up until college, about 16, 17 or so. And then I decided that actually I don't want to spend the big part of my life studying, which is what you do as a lawyer. At least 10 more years I would have to study before I qualified as a lawyer. And also, the real thing that I was passionate about was writing. And that's something that I've always been passionate about from the time I was little. I was practically born with a pen in my hand. So I decided that I was going to kick that law qualification. Well, I didn't actually get the qualification. I got like a D. I deliberately failed the exam so I could have a good reason to tell my parents that I'm not doing law at university. I'm going to go for what I really love, which is creative writing and film studies. That's what my degree ended up being in. So when I came across this book, The Element, and I read it, I was like, yes, Ken, you totally get me. You totally understand. Passion is everything. I cannot be stuck in a job or a career that I'm not passionate about. It helped to encourage me to stay on the path of passion and reinforce that at that time. So if you are in the position at work right now where you don't love your job, it's just something to pay the bills. It doesn't matter how old you are. You don't have to be in your 20s like I was. You can be in your 40s, 50s. But if you're at a place where you don't feel like you're doing something that you're passionate about in your day-to-day life, then I would recommend giving Mr. Ken a good read and seeing if maybe you might just tap into your element. So great book for you right there. So that's book number 1. Second book to help you tap into your purpose, StrengthsFinder 2.0 by Tom Rath. Now, similar to The Element, StrengthsFinder 2.0 is concerned with tapping into your natural talents and using them to do your best work in your day-to-day life. This is not just a New York Times best-selling book. It is actually a tool. The book comes with a complete online assessment. You get a special code inside when you buy the book, your own unique code, and you can go on the website and you do the assessment. The assessment is the real value of the book, because once you do the assessment, you can come back and read the book and it will help you understand what your results are, although you also get the online element. The book and the assessment will help you identify your top 5 strengths and then help you with how to maximize them, which occupations you can potentially make the most of them as well. It suggests that in here. So you don't just read the book, you do the test, and then you come back and you get that deeper understanding from the book. What I love most about StrengthsFinder is that I have done, and you probably have too, a lot of personality type tests over my life. And most of them, I'm pretty skeptical about them, if I'm honest. I'm like, and they're mostly not accurate. You know, maybe they get 1 or 2 things right, but it's mostly like, yeah, anyone could have made that up. Not the case with StrengthsFinder 2.0. This thing was so accurate. I gave it a 95% accuracy in terms of how spot on it was in identifying my strengths. I was like, wow, I feel seen. You know, this thing really read me very well. And it put into words things that I knew about myself, but I just didn't know how to explain in quite the same way that this thing did. So I think it's a really valuable book. I will share with you my top 5 strengths. Actually, I'm not going to share with you my top 5 strengths on a video. What I am going to do, if you are interested in knowing what my top 5 strengths are and sharing yours, once you read the book and you do the assessment, then head over to the community part of my YouTube channel and let's have a discussion over there. Book number 3 is actually books number 3 and 4. And I'm putting these together. So this is called A Path Appears, and it's by Nicholas D. Christoph and Cheryl Woodon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names right. Apologies if I am not. But these 2 books are written by the same authors. This one is called Half the Sky. This is A Path Appears. They are a husband and wife team. I actually read A Path Appears first, but Half the Sky came out first. Half the Sky, I believe this was a bestseller, New York Times best-selling book. I read The Path Appears first, loved it, and then went and got Half the Sky. A Path Appears is research-based, and it's based on the on-the-ground reporting of various people across the world that are transforming lives and creating opportunities in order to make the world a better place. The book highlights individuals and organizations who are tackling some of the most pressing social challenges of our time, and it outlines all the different and practical ways that we can get involved instead of merely reading about it. Half the Sky has a very similar concept, except that this book was actually published first, as I said, and it focuses wholly on how women can and are making a difference worldwide, which is the whole half the sky, half the population is women. So this is about the impact that women are making. And their argument is that women are the solution to tackling poverty, disease, and conflict. This isn't in some kind of feminist way of like women are better than men. Not at all. It's just with research-backed evidence proving that if you go into a poor community, for example, and you train and equip and empower the women in that community, maybe in business or something like that, the whole community benefits. When you place resources in the hands of the right women, the whole community benefits, which is what Half the Sky is all about. Both of these books inspired me no end. While I would have loved to be one of the people featured in the book who are out there doing the hands-on difference-making thing, I settled for the next best thing that I could do, which is what the book also helps you to decide on, and that's putting my money to work. So it was after reading this book that I first dipped into sponsorship, sponsoring somebody through one of these charities. So I got a sponsored sister across the world through Women for Women. I think she was in Afghanistan at the time. And then almost 2 decades later, I signed up my children to have their own sponsored sisters through Plan UK. It's really important to me that my children realize that your life is not just about you and you doing well. There are other people in other parts of the world, and there's ways that we can contribute. If we can't physically go there, then maybe we can just contribute financially and stay involved. So they get to write letters to their pen sisters, and it's really quite fun. But really, these 2 books are really great if you're thinking globally, or at least on a big level of how can I make a difference. If you're not thinking about that and you're just thinking about, okay, I want to contribute to a charity or something, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe you're cautious about which organizations you sow into. Then these books have guidelines to help you make the right choices so your money doesn't go to waste. Your purpose could be to build the next thing that changes lives of millions, maybe in a third world country, maybe here, who knows? But reading these books might help you know that. Okay, the last two books, books 5 and 6, and again, I'm putting these two together because they are similar. I have here The Promise of a Pencil by Adam Braun, and then I have Start Something That Matters by Blake Mycoskie. Now, these final books, I put them together because they are both memoirs from two business people who created amazing organizations based on seeing and responding to a need that touched their hearts. So the first one, The Promise of a Pencil, is the story of Adam Braun's backpacking trip as a teenager. He went backpacking around the world when he was about, I think, maybe 16, and across a few years. And then while he was in India, he encounters a young boy begging on the streets. And that one boy had this one simple wish. He asked him, "What do you want? What would make the biggest difference to you right now?" And the boy said, "A pencil." And he's like, "A pencil? You sure you can ask for anything?" No, the boy said, "A pencil." So that conversation and the repercussions of that eventually led Adam to start his own organization, which is called Promise of a Pencil, which has now built hundreds and hundreds of schools across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. So that's pretty amazing. And then with Start Something That Matters, Blake's story is similar, except that he was much older when he started. He was 29 years old. He'd already had some business experience. I think it may have been maybe 4 different entrepreneurial ventures he had set up by this point. When he traveled to Argentina, it was a trip to Argentina and seeing dozens and dozens of poor children barefoot with blisters, sores, and infections that convinced him that he needed to do something to make a difference. And that's how Tom's shoes were born. Remember, I said I read these in my 20s. So I recently looked up Blake. I can't remember why I was looking him up, but I recently looked him up, and I don't believe he's the CEO of Tom's anymore. Some things have changed, but back then when he wrote this book, he was the founder and the CEO. Tom actually stands for Tomorrow's Shoes. If you're wondering why the shoes are called Tom's and not Blake. At the time I read this book, I was so inspired. I actually went out and bought a pair of Toms, because the unique thing about the Toms business is that for every pair of shoes sold, they donated another pair of shoes to a child in need. So it became a multi-million-dollar business, but it also gave back just as much on the charity side because of that mission. You buy a shoe, a child gets a shoe somewhere in the world. I went and bought a pair of Tom loafers type shoes, and I really loved them actually. They were quite comfortable. I don't know what happened to them. I think they got worn out because I wore them so much. It was really good to read that and then to go out and actually be able to have the product and do something knowing that my purchase was helping some kids somewhere in another part of the world. The rest of this book then goes on to outline the process of bringing his idea to fruition and turning it into the multi-million business that it became. It also has a healthy dose of life and business lessons sprinkled in between to help you think about the difference you could be making with your own skills. Both of these books really did inspire me to start something that matters, at least to start thinking about starting something that matters. The closest I came to a few years after I almost started a recruitment company. The idea came while I was working at a large youth center in London in the UK for about 7 years. I was there as communications, but because I had all these other skills, I also ended up doing an employment program for the older young people who were what's called NEET, not in education, employment, or training. They really got to my heart because I recognized the need that a lot of these young people were talented, but they didn't have opportunity. So my idea back then was to build a recruitment agency called Hidden Spark Recruitment. The idea being that these young people were hidden sparks, and they were mainly almost all from disadvantaged backgrounds, connect them with corporate jobs and give them opportunities in the corporate space, which for the most part was an aspiration that they could never dream of for themselves because nobody in their family aspired to much or did much. That's just the background they came from. So that was the idea. I built that for a bit and then it just didn't go all the way. And I don't know, went down a different path. But anyway, I can do a whole episode about all the great business ideas I started. Some I failed, some I didn't, some never got off the ground. But that's not what this episode is for. But just to say that it is not too late for you to make a difference. If you're thinking, I want to do something with my life, I want to make a difference in some way, then these two books are definitely a great place to start. And of course, all six of these books are great places to start. But you're thinking, Mildred, I love this. I love the sound of these books, but where on earth do I start? I mean, I can't read all six books at the same time. If you really pushed me as to which one should you start with, I think I would have to say StrengthsFinder 2.0. The reason I say this is it's not just the book, it's the assessment. Go online, get the book, do the assessment, find out what those top 5 strengths of yours are, and then that will help you have even more clarity about where you can possibly utilize those strengths to make the biggest difference. It's short and easy read, and the test is a fun thing to do. So start there, and then once you've gone from there, then you can move on to the rest of it if you want to. But so that is it for today. These are the 6 books that you really must read if you want to tap into your purpose. Let me know what you think. Let me know which one resonates with you most. Let me know if you're going to read any of the 6 books. Let me know if you've read any of these 6 books and what you thought of them. Come and have a chat in the comments in my community section on my YouTube channel. And of course, if you have found this useful, if you like it, please like, subscribe, all of those YouTube things that YouTube people say, and please spread the word and share it. That's it for this week's episode. I look forward to seeing you back here next week when I share with you some more books that's going to change your life. Because together, you and I are going to read our way to a better future. Take care and see you on the next episode of Your Bookshelf, Your Future.